is nothing worse than when you see someone who is physically attractive and then when you start talking to them, you realize they have the personality of a breadstick. Because despite what anyone tries to tell you, personality is always going to matter more than looks when it comes to someone you want to date. And there are certain personality traits that will ruin good looks, and that is what I wanted to talk about in this video. But not necessarily talk about the obvious ones that you can probably think of off the top of your head, which, by the way, feel free to leave yours in the comment section down below. That way we can have a list that's way longer than just what I'm talking about in this video. But we can also talk about some of the lesser known ones that maybe you accidentally portray every once in a while, and you don't want to do that by accident when you first meet someone and then ruin a good first impression. So with that being said, let's dive in to these personality traits, starting with one that I didn't even know existed until recently, which is called toxic positivity, which didn't make sense to me when I first heard it because it sounded ironic. It's like, how can something be toxic if it's also positive at the same time? That doesn't even make sense. But surprisingly, it's not that hard to do, but it's different from being genuinely optimistic and genuinely positive about things. That's not necessarily what it is. Toxic positivity is where you almost like try and silence any negative thoughts or emotions that could come up or could exist in your world. Because here's the thing, our brains have negative feelings and negative emotions for a reason. They're not just there for no reason at all. And trying to put a positive spin on a bad experience that's actually not healthy. But it's especially unhealthy when you do it to other people and their experiences. It's almost like if someone's going through something tough and you basically tell them, hey, there's other people that have it way worse than you, so you should be happy. It's like, that's just like, you're kind of just like minimizing their emotions and like invalidating their experience. And plus, on top of that, being negative every once in a while isn't a bad thing. I can give you a perfect example. There was a time where a friend and I booked a vacation on Airbnb and it looked super nice. Problem was, when we got there, the place actually looked nothing like the pictures that we agreed to. Like, we walked in, our bed was stiff as a board, our sheets were paper thin, and on top of that, there was a sign over the air conditioning that was blasting freezing cold air that said, "Do not turn off." And we kind of walk in and we're just like, well, that's not cool. That kind of sucks. But we tried to be positive. We were like, hey, at least we're on vacation. We should be happy. Let's just be grateful for what we have, which is fine. Being grateful is cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But the longer we stayed there, the harder it was to continue this fake positive vibe that we were trying to put on. We went into the kitchen and there was a sign over the kitchen that said, please wash all your dishes after using them, which on its own doesn't seem bad until you realize we're paying a cleaning fee, and the dude didn't even give us soap or a sponge to clean the dishes with. He like wanted us to go to Walmart and get it ourselves the cleanest place. We were like, no, we're not gonna do that. But we're still just trying to keep that positive attitude. But the straw that broke the camel's back was when we walked into the bathroom, we turned on the shower, the water pressure was low, it wouldn't even get hot. And at that point, I was just like, you know, after being positive for like a good 3 hours straight, I was just like, yo, this place. And it was like I was reading my friend's mind as well, and we just started roasting every single thing about this Airbnb. And some people would say, oh, don't do that, you're being negative. I'll tell you what, there is nothing more bonding than roasting something or someone that both of you hate. I know that sounds a little toxic, like talking shit on people. Really? You're just gonna, you think that's a good way to build a relationship? Sometimes, yeah, it is. But it was like the whole time we're in this like bad situation. Why like pretend that it's gonna be good when you can just like accept and fully embrace that it's not that good and make it funny? Like, we were laughing so hard we couldn't even breathe, and it made the whole trip better because of that. Let me know if you agree with me or not, if that like makes sense, or if you're just like, no, it's better to be positive. Leave your answers in the comment section down below. I'm curious, because the way I see it, that's like one example of where like negativity, it's like positive negativity. That's what I would call that. That's a good thing in my opinion. That's different than toxic positivity, because there is a difference between like roasting and like genuine pessimistic, downward vibing negativity. There's a difference between the two. And to be honest, I think it's all in the vibe of like your everyday life, because no one wants to be around miserable people except other miserable people, because of that old phrase, misery loves company. But the thing is, I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you don't want to be around miserable people. You want to be around people that are happy, that are excited about life, that are excited to get out of bed and look forward to the next day. And it's people like that that can make a bad situation and still like look at the bright side, and if there is no bright side, make the not bright side funny. Because that's what influences your baseline of emotions. We all have a certain baseline where when we wake up and we go to sleep, that is our default setting. And think about it, if you're not excited about the next day, if you're not like just excited about life in general, do you want to date someone who also feels that way, or do you want to date someone who is happy and excited about life? Like, one thing I always do when I'm single and I'm talking to someone who's physically attractive, if I want to know whether or not they're a high quality person who, like, I would see myself dating, is I ask them the question, hey, where do you see yourself in like 5 years from now? And when they answer it, not only do I listen to what they say, but I also look at their eyes, because I know from my nerdy psychology background that if they look up and to the right, that they are recalling a memory, something they've already thought of. But if they look up and to the left, I know they're creating something in their head, which means they haven't thought of this until I ask them the question, and they're just making it up on the spot. Which means if they're just making it up on the spot, they haven't put any thought into where they want to be in the future. Hi, that's called a red flag. But then again, you have to remember, the only people that care about dating someone else who's like ambitious and excited about the future are other people who share that same quality. So it all depends on the kind of people that you want to attract. By the way, if you've never heard of that before, that's called eye-accessing cues. If you want to learn more about that, you can always shoot me a message. You can ask me about that and I can tell you more. But yeah, that's just one personality trait that, in my opinion, can really ruin good looks. Another personality trait that I notice is people who make every conversation all about themselves. Like, I'm gonna blow your mind right now. Next time you go into a conversation, you're talking to someone new who you've never met before, in your head, play a little game where you try and have an entire conversation without starting any sentence with the word I. Don't talk about yourself at all. Just ask questions. Be genuinely curious about the other person. And as you do this, you're going to notice 3 things. Number 1, that it's very easy to get other people to talk about themselves. Number 2, that it is very hard to get people to ask you anything about yourself. And number 3, also how hard it is to not talk about yourself, because as humans, we are constantly looking for how things relate back to us. It's totally human, it's totally normal. But because this is a habit that we built unconsciously for years, it's not gonna be something you can easily break. But that being said, if you can build a habit of showing interest in other people, over time, when you start getting really good at this, every single person you talk to, when they walk away from a conversation with you, they're gonna feel really good. They're gonna enjoy that conversation because they're like, wow, this person was actually genuinely interested in me. I wanna talk to this person more. As opposed to what a lot of people try and do when they're in a conversation, they just try and talk about themselves the whole time. They're waiting for the other person to stop talking so they can then talk about themselves and relate it back to them again. And a lot of times what ends up happening is the other person walks away from the conversation and they're like, okay, that person was cool, but I'm never gonna talk to that person again because I didn't enjoy that conversation. And really, I feel like the whole point of socializing is to make other people feel better after talking to you than they did before they started talking to you. That's how you make the world just like 1% better, one day at a time. And I don't know, that's like a rule I live by. Let me know if you found any of these valuable, by the way, if you like these kind of tips, if you want me to make another video like this in the future. By the way, if you have any video suggestions or questions about this topic that you want to ask me, feel free to shoot me a text right here. Probably not going to memorize that number right away if you're watching this video on your phone, so you can hit the top link in the description. Just tap that link and you'll be able to text me right away. But anyway, guys, that's really all I've got to say on it, so thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.